Sarah Chun woke up in darkness. Her head hurt, and she could not remember how she got here. The air smelled strange, like metal and something sweet that made her nose wrinkle. She tried to sit up, but her body felt heavy and slowed out around her. She heard soft moaning and confused voices. Other people were waking up too. Sarah blinked hard, trying to see in the dim light. Slowly, her eyes got used to the darkness. She was in some kind of metal room with curved walls. The floor was smooth and cold under her hands. "Where are we?" Someone whispered nearby. Sarah turned toward the voice and saw a man about her age rubbing his eyes. He wore the same clothes he must have been wearing when he was taken. Jeans and a blue shirt that was now wrinkled and dirty. "I don't know," Sarah said quietly. Her throat felt dry. She looked around the room more carefully. There were maybe 50 people here, all looking confused and scared. Some were still sleeping, lying on the metal floor. Others sat against the walls, holding their heads like they had headaches too. The walls had no windows, but there was a soft blue light coming from strips near the ceiling. Sarah stood up slowly, her legs shaking a little. She had been in the army for 8 years before becoming a teacher. Her training kicked in, making her look for exits and threats. There was only one door that she could see. It was smooth metal with no handle on their side. No way to open it from inside. "Hey, does anyone remember what happened?" Sarah called out softly to the group. People started talking, sharing bits of memory. "I was walking home from work," said a woman with gray hair. "Then there was a bright light. I was in my garden," said an older man. "Something came down from the sky." "Same here," said a young woman holding a baby. "I was putting groceries in my car when everything went white." Sarah felt cold fear in her stomach. These stories sounded like alien abduction, but that was supposed to be fake. Science fiction. But here they were, in what looked like a spaceship. Suddenly, the blue lights got brighter. The door made a soft hissing sound and slid open. 3 creatures walked in, and Sarah's breath caught in her throat. They were not human. They stood on 2 legs like people, but they were taller and thinner. Their skin was pale green and looked smooth like rubber. Their heads were large, with big black eyes and small mouths. They wore clothes that looked like silver jumpsuits. One of them held a small device and pointed it at the humans. When it spoke, Sarah heard words in her head, not through her ears. The voice was calm and friendly. "Greetings, primitives. Do not be afraid. You have been rescued from your dangerous world and brought to safety. You will be taken to loving homes where you will be properly cared for." The humans looked at each other in confusion and fear. The man next to Sarah stood up quickly. "Rescued? We didn't need rescuing. Take us home right now." The alien tilted its head like a confused dog. "You cannot return to your primitive environment. It is not safe for your species. You will be much happier in civilized homes with proper owners who will feed you and keep you safe." "Owners?" Sarah felt anger rising in her chest. "We're not animals. We're people." The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. "Of course, you are people. Very cute people who need protection. Your world has no proper technology. You fight with each other constantly. You cannot even leave your own planet safely. You are clearly not ready to care for yourselves." Another alien stepped forward. This one was shorter and wore what looked like fancy jewelry around its neck. It pointed the translation device at Sarah. "This one has good posture and seems alert. She would make an excellent pet for a high-ranking family. Look how she stands on her back legs so perfectly." Sarah realized with horror that these aliens really did think humans were animals. Smart animals maybe, but animals that needed to be owned and cared for like pets. "We're not pets," she said loudly. "We have cities, technology, art, families. We're intelligent. The first alien made gentle sounds that the translator turned into soothing words. Yes, yes, you are very clever. That is what makes your species so special. You can be taught simple tricks, and you form emotional bonds with your owners. Very valuable traits in the pet market. The reality hit Sarah like a cold wave. These aliens had taken humans from Earth to sell them as pets to other aliens. They genuinely believed they were helping, like someone rescuing stray dogs from the street. The shipment is ready for transport to the Zephyr 7 trading station, said the third alien. The buyers are very excited to meet these Earth primitives. The advertisement said they were docile and easy to train. How many of us did you take? Sarah asked, trying to keep her voice calm. From your world? Oh, we have collected millions so far. Your planet had far too many of your kind living in terrible conditions. Crowded cities, pollution, constant warfare. Most of your species has now been relocated to proper homes throughout the galaxy. Sarah felt sick. Millions of humans taken from Earth and sold as pets. Her family, her friends, her students. Where were they now? The ones we could not place in homes were sent to nature preserves. The alien continued helpfully. Large parks where they can run free under proper supervision. Much better than those dangerous concrete jungles you were living in. The aliens started moving through the crowd, examining people like they were selecting fruit at a market. They felt muscles, looked at teeth, and made notes on their devices. Some humans tried to pull away, but they were still weak from whatever had been used to knock them out. The elderly ones will go to families who want low-energy companions, one alien said. The young ones can be trained for entertainment. This female with the offspring will be perfect for families who want to teach their children about caring for primitive life. Sarah watched in growing anger as the aliens discussed her fellow humans like they were livestock. But she also watched carefully, studying how the aliens moved, how their technology worked, and how they interacted with each other. Her military training told her to gather information and wait for the right moment. She noticed that the aliens seemed to think humans were no smarter than dogs. They spoke freely in front of them, assuming the humans could not understand or plan. That might be useful later. The door hissed shut again, leaving the humans alone in the blue-lit room. People were crying now, holding each other and talking about their families back on Earth. Sarah sat back down, but her mind was working fast. These aliens had made a big mistake. They thought they had rescued harmless animals, but they had actually kidnapped members of a species that had survived ice ages, built nuclear weapons, and fought wars across continents. Humans were not pets. And Sarah was going to make sure these aliens learned that lesson, no matter what it took. The trading station was huge and bright, filled with aliens of all shapes and sizes. Sarah watched through the transparent walls of their transport cage as hundreds of different creatures walked past. Some had fur, others had scales, and some looked like walking plants. None of them looked human. The cage stopped in front of a large booth where a blue alien with 4 arms was talking to customers. Signs in alien writing hung above displays, showing pictures of humans doing various activities, sitting, walking, eating from bowls on the floor. Fresh Earth primitives. The trader called out in multiple alien languages. Very clean, very trainable. Perfect for families or single owners. Sarah felt sick watching aliens point at the humans and discuss them like they were buying puppies. The man next to her, who had told her his name was Marcus Webb, was a scientist. He had been studying the aliens quietly since they arrived. Look at their technology, Marcus whispered to Sarah. It's advanced, but it's not magic. Those translation devices, the cage controls, it's all based on principles we understand. We just need to figure out how it works. A tall alien with purple skin and what looked like jewelry all over its body approached their cage. It had large yellow eyes that studied the humans carefully. The trader hurried over, speaking rapidly. "Ambassador Kreeth, what an honor. I have the perfect specimens for your collection. Very healthy, very responsive to training." The purple alien Kreeth walked around the cage slowly. Its yellow eyes stopped on Sarah, who was standing straight and looking back at it without fear. Most of the other humans were crying or hiding. "This one has spirit," Kreeth said in a voice that sounded like music. "She does not cower like the others. I prefer pets with personality." "Excellent choice. This female is one of our finest. She was likely a leader among her kind before rescue. Very intelligent for a primitive." Sarah wanted to scream at them, but she forced herself to stay calm and keep watching. She needed to understand these aliens if she was going to find a way to escape and help the others. Kreeth bought 4 humans: Sarah, Marcus, a young engineer named Lisa Santos, and an elderly professor named Yuki Tanaka. They were loaded into a smaller transport and taken to what the aliens called a home. The place was enormous, like a mansion built for giants. Everything was bigger than human size, with high ceilings and furniture that looked more like art than something to sit on. Kreeth led them through hallways lined with strange objects that must have been from dozens of different alien worlds. "Welcome to your new home," Kreeth said through the translator. "You will be very happy here. I have prepared a special habitat just for your species." They were taken to a large room with glass walls. Inside was what looked like a park, with grass, trees, and a small building that reminded Sarah of a fancy doghouse, but sized for humans. There were toys scattered around, bowls, climbing structures, and puzzles that looked like they were made for very smart animals. "This is beautiful," Kreeth said proudly. "I studied your species carefully before you arrived. You need exercise, social interaction, and mental stimulation. You also need a place to sleep that feels safe and enclosed." The small building had beds, a bathroom, and a kitchen area with simple controls. Everything was clean and comfortable, but it was clearly designed for pets, not people. The door had no lock on the inside. "Now," Kreeth continued, "we must discuss your care routine. You will be fed 3 times each day. I have researched proper nutrition for Earth primitives. You will have playtime, exercise time, and training time. If you are good, you will receive treats and affection." Lisa, the engineer, stepped forward. She was young, maybe 25, with short black hair and angry eyes. "We don't need care routines. We need to go home. We have jobs, families, lives." Kreeth made the same gentle sounds they had heard before. "Poor creature. You are still confused from the journey. Do not worry. You will adjust to your new life quickly. Earth primitives are known for being very adaptable." Over the next few days, Sarah and the others explored their prison. The glass walls were incredibly strong. Lisa tried everything she could think of to break them, but nothing worked. The grass was real, the trees were real, but they were in a controlled environment with no way out. Kreeth visited them every day, bringing food and watching them with the same expression someone might have while watching fish in an aquarium. Sometimes other aliens came to visit and see the Earth collection. They pointed and made excited sounds while the humans were expected to perform normal activities like eating and walking around. "Look how they walk upright," one visitor said, "and see how they use their front appendages to manipulate objects. So clever." Sarah wanted to show them exactly how clever humans could be by strangling them with her bare hands, but she controlled herself. Instead, she watched and learned. The aliens had routines and habits. They assumed the humans were no more dangerous than house cats. Security was minimal, because who would need security against pets? Their technology was advanced, but not impossible to understand. At night, when Kreeth thought they were sleeping, Sarah and the others talked quietly about what they had learned. The translator works both ways, Marcus explained in a whisper. It's not just changing their words into sounds we understand. It's also reading our brain patterns when we speak. That's how it knows what we mean, even when we use words it hasn't heard before. Can we use that? Sarah asked. Maybe. If we can figure out how to access the system, we might be able to send messages to other humans being held in other places. Professor Tanaka had been quiet most of the time, but he spoke up now. I have been listening to how they talk about Earth. They took millions of us, but not everyone. They left some humans behind on purpose. Why? Lisa asked. They think we need genetic diversity to survive as a species, like keeping breeding populations in zoos. But that means there are still free humans on Earth, probably fighting back. Sarah felt a spark of hope. If humans on Earth were still fighting, then rescue might be possible. But they could not just wait for rescue. They needed to do something themselves. We need more information, she said, about how many humans have been taken, where they are, and how the alien systems work. And we need to find a way to communicate with other humans without the aliens knowing. Over the following weeks, they developed a plan. During their exercise time, they would move in patterns that looked like play, but were actually coded messages. When aliens visited, they would perform like good pets while secretly studying their equipment and listening to their conversations. Marcus made the first breakthrough when he figured out how to activate one of the wall panels by watching Kreith use it. It was designed to be pet-proof, but the aliens had not expected pets who could analyze their hand movements and memorize complex sequences. Late one night, while Kreith slept in another part of the house, Marcus carefully activated the panel. Instead of calling for help, it connected to the house's information system. Look at this, he whispered to the others. They gathered around the small screen showing alien text and numbers. What does it say? Sarah asked. I think it's a database. Records of where they've sent humans. Thousands of entries. Professor Tanaka studied the screen carefully. He had always been good with languages, and he had been working on understanding alien writing. This entry says, Earth primitives, batch 7, distributed to Nexarian prime sector families. That's us. And look, there are hundreds of batches. They scrolled through screen after screen of data. Humans sold to families, sent to research facilities, placed in natural habitats on different worlds. The scale was overwhelming, but Sarah noticed something else. In the corner of each entry was a small symbol that kept appearing. What's that mark? She asked. Marcus looked closer. I think it's a communication frequency. They tag each group so they can track their health and behavior remotely. Sarah smiled for the first time since being captured. The aliens were monitoring their pets electronically. That meant there was a network connecting all the humans scattered across the galaxy. Can we access it? She asked. Maybe. If we can modify the signal, we might be able to send our own messages instead of just health data. It would be dangerous. If the aliens caught them, there was no telling what would happen. But for the first time, they had a real plan. The next morning, Kreith arrived for their daily visit carrying what looked like a collar with a small device attached. Today we begin advanced training, the alien announced happily. These will help me monitor your health and teach you proper behaviors. All the best primitive species wear them. Sarah looked at the collar and then at her fellow humans. They all nodded slightly. It was time to find out just how big of a mistake these aliens had made. The collar felt cold against Sarah's neck, but she did not let Kreith see her anger. She stood still like a good pet while the alien adjusted the device and made pleased sounds. Perfect fit, Kreith said. This will monitor your health, location, and emotional state. It will also help with training by providing gentle corrections when you misbehave. Sarah felt the device buzz softly against her skin. She guessed it could probably deliver painful shocks if needed. But Marcus had been right. It was also connected to the alien communication network. That gave them a way in. Over the next month, they learned to be perfect pets during the day while working as a team at night. Marcus figured out how to access the caller's communication system without triggering alarms. Lisa used her engineering skills to understand the house's technology. Professor Tanaka decoded more alien writing and learned about their culture. And Sarah planned. The breakthrough came when they realized the aliens had made a basic mistake. They had connected all their pet monitoring systems to the same network they used for everything else. It was like putting security cameras in your house, but connecting them to the internet with no password. Late one night, Marcus managed to send their first message through the network. It was simple. Humans on Nexarian Prime. Are you there? For 3 days, nothing happened. Then responses started coming in. Humans in the Vega system. We are here. Earth primitives on Kepler Station. We read you. 23 humans on Rigel 4. We need help. The messages came in slowly. Hidden in the normal data, the callers sent about heart rates and sleep patterns. But the aliens were not looking for communication. They were just checking to make sure their pets were healthy. Within 2 weeks, they had contact with over 300 groups of humans scattered across dozens of worlds. The pattern was always the same. Groups of 20 to 50 humans kept as pets by wealthy aliens who thought they were being kind. But some groups had been held longer and had learned more about their captors. The messages they sent were not just cries for help. They were intelligence reports. Alien security systems assume non-threatening behavior from pets. Came one message from a group held by military aliens. They do not scan for weapons or tools if you act docile. Their technology depends on biosensors, reported another group. If you can fake the right biological readings, you can fool most of their systems. The trade routes follow predictable schedules, sent a group near a major spaceport. Transport ships arrive every 10 days. Sarah realized they were not just planning an escape anymore. They were building a resistance network. The night they put their plan into action, Creeth was hosting a large party. The house was full of alien dignitaries who had come to see the ambassador's famous Earth primitive collection. It was perfect timing. Remember, Sarah whispered to her team as they heard the aliens gathering in the main hall. We are not just escaping. We are sending a message to every human in the galaxy. They had spent weeks preparing. Lisa had figured out how to override the glass barrier controls. Marcus had hacked into the house's security system. Professor Tanaka had learned enough alien writing to forge access codes. And Sarah had studied the aliens' weaknesses. The party was in full swing when they made their move. Through the glass walls, they could see dozens of aliens in fancy clothes, eating strange foods and making musical sounds that might have been laughter. Creeditch was showing off, pointing at his human pets and describing their cute behaviors. Watch this, Creeth said to a group of admiring visitors. The females of the species form protective behaviors around their young, and the males will fight to defend their territory, but only with simple tools. Sarah activated the communication device they had built from stolen components. All across the galaxy, the signal went out to every human they had contacted. Now, she said, the glass barrier slid open silently. The 4 humans walked out of their enclosure, but instead of running, they calmly approached the party. The aliens noticed them and made pleased sounds. Oh, look, they want to join the celebration, one visitor said. How adorable. Creeth hurried over, looking worried. They should not be out of their habitat during social time. They might become overstimulated. Actually, Sarah said clearly, removing her collar and letting it fall to the floor. We are perfectly stimulated. The aliens froze. The translator was working, but what they heard was impossible. Their pets were speaking in complete sentences with complex grammar and clear intelligence. "We are not primitives," Marcus continued, pulling out the tablet he had been hiding under his shirt. "We are members of a spacefaring civilization that you kidnapped from our homeworld." Professor Tanaka stepped forward and spoke in perfect Nexarian language without using a translator at all. "We have been studying your culture, your technology, and your weaknesses for weeks." The aliens stared in shock as Lisa activated the room's wall displays, showing the data they had gathered about human locations across the galaxy. There are currently 847 groups of humans being held as pets on 312 different worlds, Lisa announced. All of them have been preparing for this moment. Kreith made a sound like a broken musical instrument. "This is impossible. You are non-sentient. You have no technology, no civilization, no faster-than-light travel," Sarah interrupted. "That was your mistake. You assumed that because we had not left our solar system, we were not intelligent. But humans have been preparing for space travel and alien contact for centuries. We just had not achieved it yet when you arrived." Across the room, other aliens were backing away in fear. Some were reaching for communication devices, probably trying to call for security. But Marcus was faster. "I would not do that," he said calmly. "Right now, on 312 different worlds, humans are doing exactly what we are doing. Your pet monitoring network has become our communication system. Every human in the galaxy is receiving the same signal we are sending you." "What signal?" Kreith asked in a voice that was no longer musical. Sarah smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "The signal that tells them to stop pretending to be pets." Through the house's communication system, they could hear reports starting to come in from across the galaxy. Security alerts, confused calls from pet owners, and emergency broadcasts in dozens of alien languages. Reports of primitive uprising on Vega 7, pet rebellion at the Kepler Research Facility, Earth specimens showing signs of advanced intelligence on Rigel 4. The alien party guests were panicking now, rushing for the exits. But Sarah was not finished. "You made a simple mistake," she told Kreith. "You looked at humanity and saw what you expected to see, a primitive species that needed your help. But humans are not primitive. We are survivors. We have lived through ice ages, plagues, wars, and natural disasters that would wipe out most species." Lisa held up a device they had built from alien components. "And we learn fast. Do you want to see what we learned from studying your technology?" The device activated, and every piece of alien technology in the room shut down. Emergency lighting came on as the main power systems failed. In the sudden dim light, the aliens looked small and helpless. "How?" Kreith whispered. "We are engineers, soldiers, scientists, and teachers," Marcus explained. "You kidnapped us from our homes, but you also gave us access to technology centuries beyond what we had on Earth. Did you think we would just ignore it?" Professor Tanaka picked up his collar from the floor. "These monitoring devices work both ways. They read our biological data, but they also connect to your networks. We have been mapping your entire civilization for weeks." "What do you want?" Kreith asked. The proud alien now looked afraid and confused. "We want our people back," Sarah said. "All of them. We want recognition as a sentient species. And we want to make sure this never happens again. And if we refuse..." Sarah looked around at the darkened room full of frightened aliens. "Then you will learn why humans survived as the dominant species on a planet where everything was trying to kill us. You thought you were rescuing helpless animals, but you actually kidnapped members of the most persistent, adaptable, and dangerous species in the galaxy." Outside, they could hear the sounds of sirens and emergency vehicles. Security forces were responding to the reports of pet uprisings, but they had no idea how to handle the situation. Their entire understanding of humans had just been proven wrong. "The choice is yours," Sarah continued. "You can work with us to fix this mistake, or you can find out what happens when humans stop pretending to be pets and start acting like the predators we really are." Kreith looked around at the other aliens, who were all staring at the humans with new fear and respect. The ambassador's voice was barely a whisper when it spoke. What do you need us to do?" Sarah smiled again, and this time there was satisfaction in it. The great mistake was about to be corrected, and the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The emergency broadcasts were coming in faster now. Sarah watched the alien news feeds on the wall displays while Kreith H and the other aliens sat in stunned silence. Every few minutes, another report arrived about pet malfunctions across the galaxy. Vega System reports complete breakdown of primitive containment protocols. Kepler Research Station requesting military assistance. Earth specimens have taken control of laboratory facilities. Trade Station Zephyr 7 under lockdown. Pet cargo has organized and demanded transport home. Marcus was coordinating responses through their makeshift communication network. The tablet in his hands showed a map of the galaxy with hundreds of blinking dots, each one representing a group of humans who had stopped pretending to be harmless pets. "Sarah," he called out. "Group on Rigel 4 has taken control of a transport ship. They are asking for coordinates to find other humans." "Tell them to wait," Sarah replied. "We need to be smart about this. If we just start stealing ships and attacking aliens, they will treat us like dangerous animals instead of intelligent beings." Professor Tanaka was still monitoring alien communications. The Galactic Council is calling an emergency session. They want to discuss the primitive uprising crisis. Lisa looked up from the alien computer she had been working on. "I have been analyzing their military capabilities. If they decide we are a threat, they could destroy Earth and every human in the galaxy before we could stop them." Sarah knew Lisa was right. They had caught the aliens by surprise, but surprise would not last long. Soon the galaxy would realize that humans were not pets, but potentially dangerous enemies. They needed to change the narrative quickly. "Kreith," Sarah said, turning to the ambassador. "You have influence in the Galactic Council, right?" The purple alien nodded slowly. It had been very quiet since the revelation, probably trying to understand how badly it had misjudged humanity. "We need to get to the council chambers," Sarah continued. "Not as escape pets, but as representatives of Earth. Can you arrange that?" I do not understand. You want to negotiate? After what we did to your species? What you did was wrong," Sarah said firmly. "But you did it because you made an honest mistake. You thought you were helping us. That is very different from attacking us on purpose." Marcus looked up from his tablet. "We are getting reports that some alien families are protecting their human friends. Apparently not all aliens want to give us back." This was not surprising to Sarah. Some humans had probably formed real bonds with aliens who treated them well. The situation was more complicated than simple revenge. "That is exactly why we need to handle this carefully," she explained. "If we just fight, everyone gets hurt. But if we can make the council understand what really happened, we might be able to fix this peacefully." Kreith stood up slowly. "You would trust me to escort you to the council? After I kept you as a pet for weeks? You fed us, kept us safe, and treated us with kindness," Sarah said. "You were wrong about what we were, but your intentions were good. That counts for something." The ambassador made a soft sound that the translator interpreted as surprise and gratitude. "I will contact the council immediately. But you should know, there will be calls to treat this as a military threat. Many council members will want to use force to control the uprisings. Then, we need to get there before they make that decision," Sarah said, while Kreith arranged transport. Sarah coordinated with the human groups across the galaxy. The message was simple. Demonstrate intelligence, but avoid violence unless attacked. They needed to prove they were civilized beings, not dangerous animals. The journey to the council chambers took 6 hours in Kreeth's personal transport. During the flight, Sarah learned more about the scale of what had happened to humanity. The initial surveys of Earth showed a primitive world with no unified government and constant warfare. Kreeth explained. Our xenobiologists classified your species as pre-sentient based on your lack of space technology and apparent inability to cooperate globally. We were working on space travel, Sarah said, and the wars were becoming less common. You just arrived during a complicated time in our development. We thought we were saving your species from destroying itself, Kreeth continued. The Council approved the relocation program as a humanitarian mission. Professor Tanaka looked up from the alien historical records he had been reading. According to this, they have done similar relocations before. Several species have been rescued and placed in protective environments. What happened to those species? Lisa asked. Most of them adapted well to their new lives and now live happily under alien care, Kreeth said. A few were eventually recognized as sentient and given limited independence. But none of them ever organized a galaxy-wide resistance like this. Sarah felt a cold satisfaction at those words. Other species might have accepted being treated as pets, but humans were different. Humans did not accept captivity quietly, as they approached the council station. They could see the massive structure ahead. A complex of interconnected spheres and cylinders that house representatives from hundreds of alien civilizations. Ships were arriving constantly, probably bringing council members for the emergency session. There, Kreeth pointed to one of the approaching vessels. That is a Zeltharian warship. They are known for preferring military solutions to problems. And that one? Sarah asked, pointing to a sleek ship with strange markings. Corvanian science vessel. They probably want to study your species to understand how you achieved coordination without their detection. The transport docked at a receiving bay filled with aliens of every shape and size imaginable. Sarah had never seen so many different species in one place. Some walked on 2 legs like humans, others crawled or floated or moved in ways that did not make sense. All of them stared as the humans emerged from Kreeth's ship. Stay close, the ambassador whispered. Many of these beings have never seen Earth primitives outside of controlled environments. They walked through corridors designed for a dozen different types of alien physiology. Sarah noticed that their path was being cleared by security forces, not to threaten them, but to keep curious aliens from crowding too close. Apparently, humans were now considered either dangerous or extremely valuable. The council chamber was enormous, with thousands of seats arranged in complex patterns around the central speaking area. Representatives from hundreds of worlds were already present, and the noise of dozens of different languages being translated simultaneously filled the air. As they entered, conversation stopped. Thousands of alien eyes focused on the 4 humans walking. Beside Ambassador Kreeth, Sarah had never felt so exposed in her life. The council recognizes Ambassador Kreeth of Nexarian Prime, announced a voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. You claim to bring representatives of the Earth primitive uprising? Kreeth stepped forward into the speaking area. Honored council members, I present Sarah Chan, Marcus Webb, Lisa Santos, and Yuki Tanaka, representatives of the human species of Earth. A wave of sound swept through the chamber. Surprise, fear, excitement, and anger all mixed together. Sarah could see aliens leaning forward to get a better look, while others seemed to be backing away. Impossible, said a voice from one of the upper sections. Primitives cannot represent themselves. They lack the cognitive capacity for legal standing. Sarah felt her anger rising, but she controlled it. This was exactly the attitude they needed to change. May I address the council? she asked clearly. The chamber fell silent. After a long pause, the central voice responded. You may speak, but be aware that anything you say will be analyzed for signs of coaching or manipulation by your handler. Sarah walked into the center of the chamber and looked around at the thousands of alien faces staring down at her. She took a deep breath and began the most important speech of her life. Honored council members, she began. My name is Sarah Chun. I am a human being from the planet Earth, and I am here to tell you that you have made a mistake. A big one. Sarah stood in the center of the massive chamber, surrounded by thousands of alien beings who had never imagined they would hear a primitive species speak with intelligence and purpose. The silence was complete, except for the soft hum of translation devices working to process her words into hundreds of different languages. You believe you rescued us, Sarah continued, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. You saw a world full of conflict and assumed we were too primitive to survive on our own. But you misunderstood what you were seeing. A Zeltharian representative, tall and silver with 4 arms, stood up. The evidence was clear. No space technology, constant warfare, environmental destruction. Classic signs of a failing pre-sentient civilization. You saw the surface, Sarah replied calmly. But humans have always fought, learned, and grown stronger. Every war taught us something new. Every disaster made us more adaptable. When you arrived, we were not failing. We were preparing. Marcus stepped forward and held up his tablet, now displaying images from Earth's history. We had already begun space exploration. We were developing the technology you possess. The wars you saw as signs of primitiveness were actually the growing pains of a species learning to work together on a global scale. Even if that were true, called out a voice from the upper tiers, you still showed no signs of higher reasoning. You lived like animals, following basic instincts. Professor Tanaka smiled and responded in perfect galactic standard, the common language of the council that took most species years to learn. Respected council member, the fact that you did not recognize our intelligence says more about your assumptions than our capabilities. We have poetry that predates your first space flights. We have mathematical principles you are still discovering. We have survived natural disasters that would have destroyed most civilizations. A ripple of surprised sound swept through the chamber. The old professor continued speaking in multiple alien languages, switching between them effortlessly to address different sections of the council. You also missed something important about human nature, Lisa added. We form bonds with other species easily. Many humans in your care have grown attached to their alien families. But that emotional connection does not make us pets. It makes us allies. The central voice spoke again. Even if we accept that you possess intelligence, the fact remains that your species was removed from Earth under legal authority. The council voted to authorize the relocation based on scientific evidence. Evidence that was wrong, Sarah said firmly. And now you have to decide what to do about it. You can try to continue treating us as pets, which will not work because we will never stop fighting for freedom. You can try to destroy us, which would be genocide against a sentient species. Or you can recognize your mistake and work with us to fix it. A new voice spoke from the Corvanian section. What exactly are you proposing, human? Sarah had been preparing for this question since their escape began. We want our people returned to Earth, with transportation provided by the Council. We want Earth recognized as a sovereign world under galactic law. And we want representation in this council so that no other species suffers the same mistake. Impossible, shouted multiple voices. Primitives cannot have council representation. We are not primitives, Marcus said, activating his tablet again. The chamber's displays lit up with technical diagrams and mathematical proofs. While we were your pets, we analyzed your technology and found 17 ways to improve it. We solved problems in your computer systems that your own engineers had been working on for years. We created a galaxy-wide communication network using your own equipment, without you even noticing. The chamber erupted in sounds of disbelief and alarm. Sarah could see council members frantically checking their own devices, probably trying to verify what Marcus had just claimed. That is not all, Lisa continued. We understand your social structures now, your trade routes, your military capabilities. Humans learn fast, and we had nothing to do for months except study you. A Nexarian representative near Crete Age stood up. Are you threatening us? We are showing you the truth, Sarah replied. You thought you were adopting harmless pets, but you actually gave thousands of intelligent beings complete access to your civilization. We know your strengths and your weaknesses. We know which worlds are barely defended and which trade routes are critical to your economy. The chamber fell silent again as the implications sank in. The aliens were beginning to understand that their mistake had potentially given humanity a massive advantage. But, Sarah continued, we do not want war. We want justice. And we want to prevent this from happening again. Professor Tanaka stepped forward. In our study of galactic law, we found records of 18 other species that were relocated for their own protection. Where are they now? The question hung in the air like a challenge. After a long pause, a council official answered reluctantly. Most adapted successfully to their new environments. They are well cared for. They are still pets, Sarah said flatly. 18 entire civilizations turned into zoo animals because you decided they needed protection. How many other species are you watching right now, waiting to rescue them? The silence that followed was telling. Sarah realized that humanity's situation was not unique. It was part of a pattern. We propose a new approach, she announced. Instead of relocating species you think are in trouble, help them develop on their own worlds. Provide guidance, not captivity. Share technology instead of taking away freedom. A voice from the military section spoke up. And if we refuse? Will you use the knowledge you gained to attack us? Sarah looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring at her. Some showed fear, others curiosity, and a few seemed to show respect. Humans are not conquerors, she said finally. We are survivors. All we want is to live free and help our people do the same. But if you force us to fight... She paused, letting the words sink in. Wow, you spent months studying us as pets. Did any of your research mention that humans have never lost a war for survival? The chamber was completely quiet now. Sarah could feel the weight of thousands of minds, trying to process what they had learned about humanity. Ambassador Kreith stepped forward. I moved that the council recognize the human species as sentient beings with full rights under galactic law. Seconded, called a voice from the Corvanian. Section. Seconded, echoed another from across the chamber. More voices joined in, until the sound of support filled the air. Sarah felt a surge of hope, but she knew the hardest part was still coming. The central voice spoke again. The motion is recognized. All in favor of granting full sentient status to the human species of Earth. Lights began appearing throughout the chamber as council members voted. Sarah watched the count rising on the central display. 847. 1,204. 1,689. Motion passes, the voice announced. The human species is hereby recognized as sentient with full rights and protections under galactic law. Sarah felt her knees go weak with relief, but she forced herself to stay standing. They had won the first battle, but there was still more to do. We also need to discuss reparations, she said, and the return of all humans to Earth who wish to return. Some may choose to stay with their current families, Crete pointed out. The bonds formed were real, even if based on misunderstanding. Sarah nodded. Those who want to stay should be free to do so, as long as it is their choice and not captivity. But those who want to come home should be brought home. Over the following hours, they worked out the details. Ships would be sent to every world where humans were held. Each human would be given a choice: return